Hi, everyone. Today on Metal Priestesses podcast, we have some incredible women from the death metal world. We have Sharon from Derkada. We have Corinne from Acrosticon, which is a name I've been saying wrong my whole life. Sharon and Corinne started their band in the late 80s, so they were part of that first wave of death metal. And then we also have Malika from Castrator, Nidoris, and the recently disbanded Abnormality. It was a pleasure having all of these ladies on. We ran out of time, so we'll definitely be continuing this conversation in the future. Please like and subscribe to us on our YouTube page. Take it away, Wendy.
It develops. We urge you to stay tuned to radio and TV and to stay indoors at all costs.
As of 12 noon tomorrow, say goodbye to the world as you know it. Say goodbye to
Metal Priestesses.
Welcome to Metal Priestesses. I'm going to introduce everybody. So we have Corinne over in Holland. She's from the band Acrosticon. Sharon from Derkada. Malika from a lot of bands. Castrator, Abnormality, Nidoris, is that the new one?
Nidoris.
Nidoris, yes. So Genevieve and Jesse are also the hosts, and they're actually in a punk band, and they have been since like the 70s. Doesn't make you guys old.
Jen has. I'm a recent addition, but Jen has. But I played in post-punk bands, so we'll count that.
Yeah, I'm from a band called Backstage Pass from the first wave of punk, LA Punk. And then we reformed in 2018. So I'm
nice.
back at you.
Yeah. The curse.
I want to start by asking each one of you how you got into death metal, considering it's always been like male dominated. So what was the appeal?
Let's start with Corinne.
Oh, damn you.
On the spot.
How did I start? Yeah, it just happened. I never was into. Yeah, always was looking for extremes.
Okay.
And I started when I was 12, 13 with Iron Maiden, Motorhead, the usual thing. But it quickly was speed metal, thrash metal, and when death metal came, it was kind of evolving naturally. I didn't really thought about it. It came naturally. Yeah.
Very
Never gave a second thought that it might be unusual.
The real story is because you had a car and you went out and
Shut
bought a band. That is true. That is true.
Sharon is calling you out.
This is a good way to start.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, my my brother got in a band with Richard, our guitar player, but he lived in the city and we lived in a small town. And my brother was 16 or 17. So he didn't have a car and I had a car. So I drove him every week to the rehearsal room. And at one point he just said, well, if you're gonna be here every week, you can do something.
Wow.
You know,
like,
I think that's what happened. I'm sorry. I think that's what happened. I think that's happened in a lot of bands with siblings, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened with Oasis, you know, the guitar player.
Well, I hope you get along better with your brother than
than those two. But I think that's how he ended up in Oasis. I think that's a typical sibling story.
Yeah, if they'd had a car, one of them would have pushed the other out of the car while it was
right. Exactly.
Yeah,
so is it popular in Holland?
Death metal.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. It was really big right from the start. Yeah, Bands like Gorefest, Pestilence, Sinister. Yeah, we had a lot. We still have a lot of death metal bands.
Mm-hmm.
So do you all bristle when they sort of talk about the Scandinavian aspect, you know? Are you kind of like, no, it was us?
Yeah, the Dutch scene was completely different than the Scandinavian scene. I think you can really say there's a strong Dutch scene, and it's known worldwide. I think everybody knows the Dutch bands.
Yeah,
Cool.
sure.
I think they made a difference too. Bands
Yeah.
like Pestilence, Gorefest, Sinister, they
Those
really
are
matter.
those are the bands my husband loves. He's here lurking. He was so excited. He was like, "Oh man, I can't wait to hear these three."
Sharon, how did you get started?
It was a slow progression, I guess. I mean, I grew up listening to metal. I mean, I was born in 1970, and that you start off with your regular rock music that's being played, and then it progressed to the heavy metal. And if you look at like Aerosmith, like Dream On, like that came out early 70s.
Yes.
So like when I was growing up, and same with Corinne, we were, you guys too, that stuff was like growing up with us at a very young age. So the whole music thing, it's not unusual to me at all to be inspired by any of it. As far as getting into the death metal, back then we only had 5 TV shows to watch, and one of the big things was like Chiller Theater, and the horror movies, Masterpiece Theater or whatever, and watching all of that. I always had a strong I don't know, I like to get spooked. So I love a good ghost story, or so anytime that stuff was on, it's like I'm watching it. So it was just kind of a progression. Once I got to like 10 years old, there's like Ozzy, and Randy Rose and all of that. Yeah. And so you start getting into like Motley Crue, like back before they went like the glam, when they were like Shout at the Devil and all that, that was like, whoa. It was a progression.
Yeah.
And then it was actually when I was at a Motley Crue concert, when somebody that worked at a local radio station gave me a mixed jam tape, and it was like bands like Slayer, Sacrifice, Testament. I was like, oh my God. And then I started hanging out with the people that did, listen to that stuff, and it was just like the progression on down to like getting into like the rougher vocals, like Metallica, like I listened to Metallica before they actually had a release. Like that was like, their like No Life Till Leather demo was getting passed around with tape trading, and so all of that kind of played into it, that it was just, you get inspired by this stuff. And
I think that's what happens with music. I mean, I know for me at my age, listening to the British Invasion, first Elvis Presley, then the British Invasion, and then all those other 70s bands came in, and then there was it was a strange progression to punk,
Right.
So I think that's what tends to happen, is that you just keep getting inspired by the things that you grew up with, and what's happening on the radio, and then you seek out things that speak to you,
and you also get to a point where you realize you don't belong with the standard people, like like when I was in high school, like there's a lot of friends on my high school friends on my Facebook now, but back in high school they hated me, they would tease me and stuff because I was different. And there was a small clique of us that were really heavily into music, and you know, so you start finding your pack of friends.
Yes, your tribe.
And then, yeah, and then you start finding more people like outside of like your local area, like the different school districts, and you know, and then it just kind of like goes on, and you find people that have the interest, and then you know, now you're in your whole other world.
Well,
no, that's not going to happen.
I feel like that was different for you ladies because I feel like men accepted you into that death metal scene.
Yeah, we never had a problem.
Yeah,
with it. We were there from the beginning of it, and yeah, like the experiences that I hear from other people, it's like, I mean, even Terry and I like recently were talking about it. We're like, what is going on? Like, I don't remember anything, you know. Like,
well, it's a different time now. Malika, let's hear how you got into it.
Well, yeah, can I comment on what Sharon said? Sure. I think that's really interesting. And like, not only them getting into death metal, but they were there at the beginning of death metal, like becoming a genre, evolving from like progressive rock and like Black Sabbath and jazz. And so I think that's so interesting, and how the tape trading thing, that's like how you discovered bands like before the internet. And yeah, and Sharon, you knew Chuck Schuldiner, right? I've seen you post pictures with him. So like you were there in the early like death shows, right? Like you knew all the first bands. Like that's so cool to hear, and I'd love to hear more about that too. But for me, like, you know, I'm younger than you and Corinne, so like hearing these stories would be really cool, like the beginning of death metal, the first death metal bands.
But how did you get in it though? Like what got you into it?
So also for me, it was a progression. Like when I was a little kid, I really loved Jimi Hendrix and like electric guitar, and I listened to a lot of rock, and I just like discovering heavier and heavier bands, like in high school especially. I became friends with like other music lovers, and we were trading mixtapes and CDs, eventually burned CDs. And like
we were the CD age.
Yeah, it was. I remember the tapes too. I had
Me
tapes
too.
and Walkman, and then it became the Discman.
Yep.
So yeah, like it resonates with me what they're saying. But I'm a different generation, a little bit younger. So yeah, I had some friends in high school that were like into punk and rock and metal, and I met someone that was in a death metal band, and that was the first time I heard death metal. I was like, whoa, what is this? And like he was giving me some Deicide and Morbid Angel and like Cannibal Corpse, of course, like some stuff early, you know, those are the first things I heard, and just like branched out into everything else. So yeah, I was kind of like an angsty teenager. I'm sure you guys too.
Yeah.
And it just, those angry sounds like resonated with me. It's like you feel less alone, you know, and meeting other people who love music just as much as you, that you go to shows with, you find your tribe, you know. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Malika, I was listening to one of your bands, I think it was almost so atmospheric, you know. It almost reminded me of going to like some really esoteric art show where you just are kind of blown away. And how do you feel about it? I mean, I was wondering, when you sing, do you use an effect, or is that just your voice? Or I think I was
no effects.
No effects.
No, it's like it's like the early death metal albums. No effects used.
So intense, but it just makes you feel something, you know. It just so strong.
Thank
you know.
Yeah, there is a lot of emotion that goes into death metal. I think a lot of people don't realize that don't listen to the genre. But yeah, it's you know, a sound I developed with practice, you know, like it takes time and practice to develop your growl. I'm interested to hear Corinne and Sharon talk about it. But yeah, I mean, I just was like first fascinated by like the death metal sound, like, whoa, like how does that person make all those sounds? Like the same person, you can make like all these different voices. So I just like, as a fan, I just, started growling along to music, like to CDs, and discovered that I could do it. Of course, I wasn't good in the beginning. It took a lot of practice. And then once I got a handle on it, then I started playing in bands, and it just, I never looked back. I just started taking it more seriously. It went from just, having fun, like a passion, to like, taking it more as a music career.
So
did you growl to Hendrix?
No.
No, I was sorry.
Did you listen to Hendrix and like practice?
No, I'll say I also I started as a singer. Like when I was a kid, I took singing lessons actually, and I sang.
No, I meant just his solos. Yeah, never mind.
Anyway.
So I have to ask you. So how did all your parents react to this? When you started really getting into developing the growls and all that kind of stuff, were they like, I think we're going to take her to see somebody, or were they cool about it?
No, my parents thought it was just a phase. Yeah.
Of course.
Rock and roll, a phase.
Yeah.
Puberty,
yeah.
Yeah, my mom, because we would practice in my basement, but I wasn't doing vocals live, but when we had the demo, my mom was just so proud, because once it got out in tape trading, we started getting a lot of mail. So that's all my parents were seeing, like, where's all these people from all over the world. And it was like, 10 letters a day. And it was like, that was the daily thing, is go get the mail, open it up. And then people were calling. I mean, people from Sweden would call all out. It's like, whenever, like, if you get a call in the middle of the night, normally like that's like somebody may have died or in a car accident. Like in my household, it was like, I got it, it's for me.
Oh, that's cool.
But so they, they kind of were like, I don't know what this is all about. But then my mom took the demo, because she was all excited about seeing all the reaction. She took the demo to her work and she played it for her coworkers, and they told my mom that I needed therapy and all this. And so my mom was mad. My mom came home, can you believe they said that? And I was like, Mom, why would you do it? Like, because she knows me as a person. So like, the growl thing, I don't know what you guys are doing or whatever, but she didn't think of, like, she knew what it
She was proud of you.
Yeah, she was.
She was supportive from the beginning. That's cool.
My family made me go to therapy, and then the therapist was like, "You did what?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, we just didn't like. We didn't really.
My dad. My dad was, in the beginning, he was like, Malika, you have such a nice voice. Like, why don't you sing nice? Why are you doing this singing? Like, he totally didn't get it. But then once my band, like, Abnormality started taking off, then he started to become like proud, like, oh, you like metal, check out my daughter's band. And he would like play my music for people, and like he got it, like after going to some shows and seeing that we had a following and stuff, then he became more proud and didn't question what I was doing anymore. And my mom, she was always supportive too, but she's a born again Christian, and like I'm like, Mom, you know that some of these songs are like anti-religious. And she's like, that's okay. she's like, that's okay, I'm supporting you. I'm like, okay. So like somehow she was still supportive, which is cool.
That is really
lucky
cool,
that they were supportive. Yeah.
Let's get to some fan questions because we have a lot. Yes, we do.
Fran and I didn't think we were going to get any. We were
no. They're all for you. They're all for you.
No, this is for all of you. What are your top 3 death metal albums that got you into the genre that you still listen to and find inspiring today?
Whoa.
3. These thinking questions. I can't. It's hard for me to think of like what would have been the first, because
I think now. For me, Death, I still the first 2 of Death. Pestilence, of course, for me. And another one. Phew. Difficult. Difficult.
You stumped the panel today.
They did.
This
It's the fan
listener has
questions.
It had to be a Bathory, Corinne.
What?
That's one. Bathory.
Oh, yeah. Is it really death metal? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I used to listen to Battery, of course.
What about Possessed?
Yeah,
Seven Churches.
Yeah, Seven Churches was really wow. I still listen to that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
How about you, Malika?
It's hard to pick only three, but it's probably not the very first bands I heard, but like 3 albums that I still listen to today, like Suffocation, Pierced from Within, Decapitated, Winds of Creation, and Deeds of Flesh. Like I can't pick just one, but those were 3 like very inspirational for like my type of brutal death metal singing. So, and those are 3 bands and albums that I go back to again and again.
That was easy for her.
Well, they went first, so I had time to pick.
Get extra time. All right. Next, what drove you to do the vocals or play the bass or guitar?
I didn't answer my 3.
Oh, sorry. I thought you did.
No, I was helping Corinne out.
Sorry. All right, Sharon. Everyone be quiet. Sharon is talking.
Yeah. Sepultura, Morbid Visions, Paradise Lost, but it was their demo, like Frozen Illusion.
Yep.
And then, whenever the album came out, that was like, and the first 2 Death albums, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah. And Bathory, Bloodfire, Death.
And Autopsy.
Awesome.
Were any of you
Autopsy?
Were any of you influenced by Venom?
Who?
Venom.
I love
Venom.
Venom.
I thought you said Bethlehem.
Yeah, I did too, actually.
Probably a band called that. It's just real.
We have a band here called Bethlehem.
Are we ready to move on, Sharon?
Yes. Yes. Venom, of course. Everyone.
All right.
But I have a fan question. Is there anybody that any of your idols, who would you most want to meet?
You've probably met them.
Yeah, I met him. It's Chris Reifert. I really love that guy. That's to me, it's Mr. Death Metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's probably a big fan of Aristocon too.
Yeah, it's a Acrosticon.
I was just gonna say
We've all been saying it wrong. Oh, my husband, he's like, I've been saying it wrong.
He needs to be a host on the show today.
I was going to correct you guys, and I thought, well, maybe I've been saying it wrong.
That's the problem with these
the death metal names.
I know the names.
They are great names. I mean, it's like, I can just see like parents and I don't know if you I don't think Malika will remember this, but the other 2 will is the PMRC, which was that were like, they must have just freaked out at that.
Tipper Gore and all that. Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
And with her,
I heard about it and Twisted Sister.
Right, a Tipper Gore. I mean, she has such a perfect name too. It's like Tipper Gore,
I know.
She should love you guys, right?
She was on the wrong team. She had the right name.
Yeah. She was big into censorship, right? And
oh yeah.
Yeah.
But nowadays, do you feel like you still face that, or is there still issues in some countries, or no?
Not at all. Not at all.
So that's progress for you, really. I mean, it's cool.
Well, there's just the social stuff that's going on now. It's not, it's a little bit different. The social climate makes it weird for some bands, because some bands try to be, like over the top extreme. They're trying to be, you know, like a provocative or whatever. And then people are like, hey, you can't say that, you know? And so there's a social battle going on. But as far as like with the PMRC, that's like, they actually help sales because
Yeah,
Yeah.
you almost want what like the parents don't want you listening to. That's
Yeah, and Frank Zappa kind of just took them apart, which was really interesting, you know, and it's
so did John Denver.
yeah, that's right. It was sort of a really crazy time, and you know, you could see it happening again because things go in cycles and all that. But it's nice to hear that things have changed. I mean, do you think that a lot of the press around death metal and things like that is sort of like male focused press, so that they, you know, because like they say, you know, oh, it's very masculine and you know, it's very dark and all that kind of stuff. But it sure seems to me like the three of you are having a lot of fun when you're performing. You know, is that okay to say that you're like enjoying it and just really fun?
Yeah, I never bought into it being a male dominated thing at all. Like that's like when people say that, I'm like, it wasn't like that in the beginning, especially with the punk scene. Punk had so many women, you know, involved. Like there was never ever any weirdness of being female, you know, Black, Chinese. Like not like it was. Everything was culturally acceptable because that was the beauty of it all. You know, everybody was misfits. I mean, that was it. It didn't matter your gender or anything. And now it's like people are saying like there's all these problems. I'm like, well, this isn't the underground. This isn't what we started, because like the whole thing of networking across the world, it totally doesn't make sense for people to now be like, well, no, like, you know, like I don't know, like I don't know what's going on. Like I try to stay out of this stuff, but there was never ever anything that it was a male dominated thing, you know.
That was what was so great about the punk scene, you know, and it's how I found a tribe, you know, was because it was a bunch of misfits, and the actually punk was like a very varied musical style too, you know. It wasn't all like the Sex Pistols, you know. There was some variation there, at least in the LA punk scene. And it was just a bunch of misfits a lot of times, just sitting. We had nowhere to go, so we would just be sitting on a street corner somewhere, you know, or, you know, we just found like-minded others. But it was very much it was very easy to fit in, and that was I think was the best part of it.
You still feel like misfits? Yeah,
we're gonna move.
Yeah, I don't think that ever goes away.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
I find that I don't know. I find it really interesting that you didn't feel that way, Sharon and Corinne. Like, were there more women back there at the shows? Because like I felt like when I was getting into death metal, there were very few women, and it did have a patriarchal feel.
Well, no, it was few women in as far as death metal, but if you look at metal as a whole, okay, when Rat and Motley Crue, Iron Maiden. Just look at their videos. Right. Women were, you know, it was, if not more women at the shows than men, you know, because that was like industry pushed. So with MTV and all that, there was a lot of women that were into metal and heavy metal. But to get into the underground, that was, we were the ones that were just like, something was up with us. You know, we kind of had this common weird thing, and it didn't matter that you know, like what your gender was. It was like, you know, and plus we're tomboys. I think that's the other thing that people kind of like with the way that the scene is now is, you know, they're not everybody's a tomboy. Like we're tomboys, so we're treated differently than someone who is going to be, you know, dressed very provocatively, walking around, you know.
Right.
People, you know, so
do you feel like you had to be that way Did you feel like you had to negotiate your gender? Like, did you feel like you had to present that way to get respect, or it was who you were? Like you wanted?
No, it's just how I was.
Tomboy.
There was. I mean, I had incidences when I found death metal and that scene. It was like, oh my God, this is great. When I was going to arena shows, I got into messes where, got like roadies, hey, you want to meet the band? And you're like, yeah, you're like 14 years old. Yeah, I went. And they're like, okay, well, give me a blowjob. And it's like, wait, what? No. They're like, well, get the fuck out of here. But that's what it was like at those, so early on, like I did not want that look because that look was being associated with that. So, there is some truth to saying that, me not having, like it wasn't me anyway. Like I was always a tomboy. Like my parents, they always had trouble with putting dresses on me and stuff like that. But just in general, it's like I'm more comfortable like jeans and t-shirt, but the underground scene, they, at that time, you have to think of that, Malika, at that time, these people were only 15, 16, 17 years themselves. They were so socially awkward towards women that they weren't assholes.
Yeah.
I was like the scene in the 90s, the scene changed because there was the black metal thing that kind of mixed in with the goth thing, and that kind of like exploded to something completely different. But back then, like in the early days, like I was one of the guys. Like I was accepted in. It's always been
Malika,
that way.
Malika,
Yeah, me too, the same.
do you feel like the older generation of the death metal vocalists,
Slightly older.
the women,
Older.
Yeah,
like Corinne and Sharon, do you feel like they get more respect than the women in death metal nowadays?
I think so. Well, I just think it's a different time now.
Yeah.
And I in my experience,
experience,
it's like too many things to mention, but basically it got to a point where I stopped talking to bands that I liked at shows because they would just hit on me. And it's like, I'm not a groupie, I'm here, I'm a musician, I like your band.
yeah,
and
that's always...
and touring with bands, like I'd get into uncomfortable situations, especially like touring with 5 bands and being the only girl like on the whole tour, including all the merch people, and sometimes there would be like one merch girl, so like it would just be like a matter of time before an awkward situation or something. But not every tour, not every band is like that, but it happens fairly often.
But the thing is there's a lot of girls out there that have that are like that, so guys don't know. How are they to distinguish? You know what I mean? It's a weird, like if you talk to the guys, like a lot of these things, I think guys should be the ones asking the questions, like, oh, why do you do this or why do you do that? Because they're the only ones that could really explain. But you see the girls that go after the guys. You know what I mean? So it's not like that's not happening. So I think
it can
guys,
go both ways.
Yeah.
And
so
I think some musicians like start expecting that kind of reaction from women, or like like especially like the bigger bands, they just
they probably
they think they can get whatever they want whenever they want.
Okay, and, first of all, doesn't that make you laugh? Don't you just want to look at them and be like, you're in a death metal band?
Well, that's the funny. I think for people like Corinne and I, like if we had approached like that, like I've had guys that they would have like that type of a look, like they're gonna like, hey baby, and then I give them a look, and then they go away.
Yeah,
like they know better. And it's like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, they're like, I'm melting.
Yeah.
How about for you, Corinne?
Yeah, I have that look too. Yeah, the same look as Sharon has.
Yes.
I was never hassled or whatever. Never. I just gave them one
really?
look and they were gone.
You know,
But
Malik,
there has been a lot of controversy in that has been starting to surface, like the Burger Records,
Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn
yeah,
Manson, yeah.
those kinds of controversies, and this thing has been going on for a very long time, you know, but it's starting to come out that women have felt pressured, especially young women, you know, that want to be on labels or that kind of thing. And I think that it's like this sort of age-old Hollywood, you know, type casting couch problem. It's been going on, you know, in film and movies and also in music, but music is sort of the last one to be called out, I believe, you know.
That like underground doesn't have no casting couches, so we didn't have to worry about that.
Right.
Like,
well, but it's interesting that you're from slightly different generations, and maybe things are sort of cyclical. Whereas, you know, when Corinne and Sharon were first coming up, it was more egalitarian. But you know, for Malika, you know, she's having a different experience, and so also things tend to fragment, you know, styles of music. It used to be everything fell kind of under one big, you know, circus tent, but now it gets so specialized that maybe that's changed things. Is that what you're thinking, Malika? Or
what do you mean, like in terms of specialized the genres?
Yeah. So maybe it's a really different
I'm not
experience now for you than it was for them.
I feel like if we're gonna like put it into maybe a wording that people will understand easily, Sharon and Corinne are like girls' school. You know, they were with Motorhead and they were with around the new wave of British heavy metal, and so people respect.
I think they commanded that respect. Yeah.
So you know, people see the old pictures of Sharon and Corinne, and they're with all of these people considered death metal gods nowadays. But to Sharon and Corinne, they were just your friends and your equals. Whereas now Malika, I think, has a little bit more of a challenge.
But it is a lot of pressure going on a tour with all men, you know. It tends, you know, I mean, I could just kind of feel
that just
Malika.
sounds annoying.
Yeah, I could kind of feel you because certainly like it sort of even made me harken back to watching the movie Walk the Line when June Carter was with all like Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, like Jerry Lee Lewis. And she was like, oh God, get me away from all these guys. You know, it's like,
and you do see like the groupie phenomenon. You see the girls that are totally okay with that going backstage, but you know, the guys shouldn't assume that every girl at a show is a groupie. You know, some people are like, you know, strictly there because they love the music or they're musicians themselves. And like, not to hate on groupies either. Like, if that's what you want, okay, you know, go for it.
The one thing that I also remember is it shows most people are getting drunk and they're doing coke. So,
and they're not on their best behavior.
Like they're not. Like they're probably not even
not at work.
mentally. You know, so it's. I always mention to girls, you gotta like, you know, get a little street smart. Because especially if you get invited backstage, a lot of backstage they're doing coke and they're not going to be thinking the way they would be, you know, the next morning. So it's, you know, it's very cautionary to be, you know, like, you know, don't go by yourself if you don't know them type of thing.
Yeah.
I think
it's kind of bullshit. It's kind of bullshit that the responsibility falls on the women to be extra street smart. You know, like we need to hold the guys accountable for, you know, bad behavior too. But I think, you know, the old school mentality is like, women, you have to watch out for your own body, you know, like, and watch out for yourself. But I think the society's attitude towards it is changing, like, you know, that we're expecting the men to behave better, even under the influence of alcohol and drugs.
It might. I wonder if we have like different scenes mixed or something. Because, friend, do you see a lot of that over on your end over there? Like, I think like the scene just seems like there's like other, like, I don't know, like,
What do you mean?
do you see men taking advantage of women over your way?
Well, I talked to a girl here. Maybe you know the band Sisters of Suffocation from the Netherlands.
Yeah, awesome band.
I talked to their singer last week or 2 weeks ago, and she has really, men are very sexist towards her, very abusive. They call her names and about the way she looks and everything, and she's really.
I do think this is a generational. I think especially the younger generation under me, like having an even harder time.
Yeah,
just to establish. Is
she younger?
She's younger than me. She's like
20, 22, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, very young. Yeah, it's really, really sad to hear. It really is. They're giving her a hard time.
Yeah, that's what I was. Sorry, go ahead.
On social media, it's really killing. They can really destroy somebody.
Yeah, social media is a really difficult, situation.
Because I would imagine, like Corinne and Sharon, you guys are like been there, done that. Like, yeah, just say whatever you want about me. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but in our time it was not that easy because they had to write a letter, and then it took a week.
It couldn't get
snail mail.
Yeah,
you could not be keyboard warriors back then.
Well, no, I saw some. Derkata got some. Like, this was back in 2000. It was like right when like there was MySpace. But Roy Fox had just. I was playing bass in the band Avicium, and Roy Fox had put out the compilation Derkata stuff, And so I just was like, hey, gonna Google Derkata to see if people have interest in Derkata, to see if I should get back into it. And I did see I was being compared to like the singer of Evanescence, who they do the model things, and it was like oh, I wouldn't fuck her and all this kind of stuff. And I got really upset. And I remember I called up Mark, and I was in tears, and he was like, back up. He's like, you mean to tell me you were upset over some stranger said that you were ugly? He's like, are you kidding me? Like, you're upset over that? Like, who the fuck is that guy? And then I'm like, okay, yeah, I see your point, but still, And even like Daryl from the Untitled Chapter, I was like chatting with him at the time, and I remember like he was defending me, and I got mad at him for doing that. I'm like, no, because now you just like stirred up the bee's nest, and everyone else is going there writing their opinions on me. But it was not just the guys. That's the thing. Like, I found a lot of women will cut.
It's interesting you say that, because we had Deb from Lady Beast and we had Amy from Solicitor on together. And I asked them that. I said, do you find that women bully other women?
Yes.
Of the jealousy thing. And they said that. They're like, we have a hard time processing. It's shouldn't happen, but it does. And it's worse now than ever because of social media.
Yeah, social media ruined like any chance of anything of sanity.
Yeah, it's true. Hey, I wanted to ask a question just to get onto a musical aspect. Who here writes songs, and can you tell me a little bit about your songwriting process?
I do.
Okay, Sharon.
I get I don't know.
Movies.
I get nothing like that. I get like things pop in my head. I can probably demonstrate. Okay, so like I wrote something, a part of it, like I'll just be like tinkering around, and then I'll write something like, oh, that sounds like something, and then I'll get a lyrical line that comes in for that part, and then right then I know this is going to be a song. So then I play that over and over and over until I get to the next part, and then I'll get like more lyrical lines, and then it ends up being like I call it, it's a mental puzzle. So then I'm putting things together that Mark Master is going to be calling. So let me
Sharon, hello.
Yeah. Let me
These two keep each other in check.
So do you write on the piano or the guitar?
No, it's guitar. But I want to just show you an example, because this is almost like a premonition of my mom's death, and that's like weird. She passed away last March.
Sorry.
And thank you. And I wrote this. Started. Eventually, I'll find it. I'm going. These are all my recordings, so that way I don't know if you can see. Like I record on my phone, but this is all like the new stuff. But you know, oh, here it is. Okay, so this is just a part of a song that's it's a work in progress. I'll see if you can guys hear it. Can you hear it? Okay, unclear right here. Twilight brings suffering.
Cool.
Okay, so I wrote that, and I got that line, like, and it's almost like that inner voice. So it's like, so I get twilight brings suffering, and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, is it like something like torturing happening at nighttime or something? Like, I don't write lyrics like that, so I was like, I don't know what to do with it. So this was written September of 2019. My mom passes away in March of 2020, and every night, I mean, still, he's like crying, you know. It's like during the day, you keep yourself busy, you know, and you know, forget about like anything horrible. You can forget about things, but at night, you're wide open. So then I was laying there one day, I was just completely in tears. All I wanted to do was sleep. And I thought to myself, why can't I just go to sleep? And that voice came back, twilight brings suffering. So I was like, I was like, whoa, like, so it was like a premonition of all of that, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's how I write. And that's like when, like, there's certain times the band be like, I want to change it. Like, no, we can't, because that was one of those moments where like something came in, and you know, like, this is how it has to go. But like, oh, you should change that lyric. Like, no, that lyric I can't change. This one I can, but that one came in that way. So it sounds all like artsy fartsy or something, but that's how. But I write all the music and lyrics, you know, and then the band comes in with their stuff.
I just want to point out that this is a Metal Priestesses exclusive. You know, hearing music that nobody else has heard, right?
Yeah, that was like,
okay.
Yeah, so no one steal it. No one steal it.
We like that. Now we're going to get that
cool.
from Corinne and Melissa.
I already recorded it. It's going to be on the next CD.
Well, you can sue each other, not Metal Priestesses. Okay.
I was wondering, I work with tarot, and I'm also a Reiki master healer. Is anyone here psychic or work with tarot or do that? Corinne, you do? Yeah. Can you tell me a little about that?
I have my own practice. I'm a counselor healer, and I work with tarot and white time healing. So I give healings, yeah.
Wow. And that tie in with music?
Yeah, sometimes. Since I do that, when I perform, I usually before I go on stage, I put myself in white light, and
wow.
Yeah, something I do the last few years. It helps.
And can you relate to what Sharon's saying? Like, do you get that sort of like that voice in your head?
Yeah, I also get out of nowhere stuff in my head, and I use that for music. Yes. Yeah, I also do that.
And what instrument do you write on?
On bass guitar.
Right.
Yes, bass guitar, but I do it the same way Sharon does. But I get a melody in my head usually, and then I record it on my phone, but just with my voice. Dus, yeah, you get a guitar riff, but yeah, if you listen to it, it's really stupid. That's la, 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 la.
I've done that. Yeah. A lot of times, Corinne, does this happen to you? Like, I get ideas in the shower. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So in the shower, I guess it's because like nothing, you're not thinking of anything. You're like doing your routine, you know, this and that. All of a sudden you're like, oh.
Where's my phone? La, 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 la.
Well, also there's really good acoustics,
Yeah.
you know, with that, with a sort of like a slap echo that affect the shower, right? Do you do that, Malika? Do you write in the shower as well?
Sometimes, yeah, things come to me in the shower. It's a eureka moment, right? But I think creativity happens in flashes like that. Yeah. And just have
Has
to tune
anyone
in.
ever dreamt a song? Malika, have you ever dreamt a song?
No, I wish. That would make things easier.
Yeah.
Well, Corinne will appreciate this. Well, probably most of you will. I woke up once with this like bass riff and pretty much almost a complete song in my head, you know, so I immediately was worried, oh, is this, I must have heard this somewhere. But sure enough, you know, I've never heard
That's the thing, yeah. Like when you write, it's like, you know, I start playing it in the band, it's like, this is somebody else's song, you know? Yeah, exactly.
Sharon, a lot of fan questions about what gear you use, what your chain signal is, your sound, your tone. Can you explain it?
It's copyrighted. She can't.
I have a Laney, I think it's LA 100. I haven't been in the rehearsal room since all of COVID, so you know, but I have a Laney head, and I got my Gibson custom shop XBLs, and that is like my thing. I don't use pedals, just a noise gate, and anyone who's ever seen us live knows why that happens. But yeah, just that, like, yeah, we don't get into the pedal thing.
How old were you?
Wow, really? No pedals at all?
Wow.
Sorry.
Sharon, how old were you when you started playing?
15. But then this here's a, you know, Malika will like this going into the whole thing. This is prior to finding the death metal guys where I felt at home. But my first guitar teacher hit on me like after a couple lessons, and
how old was he?
You know, he was definitely older. I mean, I was, you know, 15, and he had to be easily in his 20s. I still know I'm not going to call him out or anything like that. But anyway, like, it was like in this back room, and it was like my mom would wait out in the front of the store, and we went in the back room, and it was probably like maybe our third lesson in, and he said that he wanted to make love to me. Okay, I'm 15, so just that word still, like, make love. But he said he wanted to make love to me on his bearskin rug in front of his fireplace. So I was like,
oh, gross.
yeah. So, and I'm like, like, you know, because I'm a very shy person. More so back then. Like, I have to force, like, this, like, I'm medicated to do this. So, but I have to force myself for any type of a social interaction. But here I am, you know, back in this, like, you know, little storeroom, and he's saying this to me, and I'm like, and then after we left, I never told my mom why, but I'm like, I don't want to go back. And I never, and that kind of helped out Derkeda, because that's how I self-taught and kind of got my own sound.
What do you tune your guitar to?
B. It's B, but it's F sharp, like BEAD, F sharp B. And we stumbled over that. I know Carcass, I know, like, they always kind of like say, like, oh, they're the first that kind of started tuning down or whatever. But I think there was a lot of us that were tuning down accidentally because we didn't have tuners. Mm-hmm. You know, when I got my guitar, I thought it was going to be all like, you know, Miss Guitars. I knew nothing, you know, but I took off my strings, and then I tried to put them all back on and tune to the, you know, I knew how to tune to each string, but not like, you know, I didn't have a tuner. So like the tuning was like lower, and I got used to that sound. So and I think at one point it was like at C when we first started out. Then I was like B kind of is like where it's at. But yeah, but that was a weird moment for me. And like I said, I never told my mom that happened, and I wouldn't go back. And I only recently started taking lessons because that ruined me for anybody, because I thought that if I would go there were so many people, like there were like in high school, I knew there was these guys that taught, that I thought that they would think that I would want something versus just a lesson. So I kept it all to myself, and that's how Derketa started. Was I didn't feel comfortable, at that time. I mean, I was in bands with guys after that and all that. Once I got into the death metal scene, it was like family and everyone protected each other. But it's the people outside of that there definitely is some creeps. There's women creeps too. I don't want to like say like it's all guys. There's women creeps too.
That's true. I do feel like there's a difference between like the underground death metal scene and the more mainstream metal scene. And I feel like definitely I had different experiences, like when Abnormality was more underground versus when we were playing bigger tours and stuff. And I do feel like underground is more family. Yeah.
Well,
I definitely more respected in the underground.
Yeah, you couldn't get away.
Right, everybody knows each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It wouldn't fly. So that you kind of answered one of the questions, Sharon.
Can't quite hear you, Elizabeth.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, they can hear me. Someone asked if it was a conscious decision that Derketa was all women, and it sounds like at first it was. So.
Well, actually, no, it wasn't. It was me and Terry. Dawn from Nunslaughter offered to fill in on bass until we found a bass player, but it was our friends that were finding other females that were looking for bands, and it was like Vincent Crowley from Acheron, Ross from Immolation, Dawn from Nunslaughter. Like it was a lot of friends were like, hey guys, like, I think you should keep this all female. Like this is kind of like a unique thing, and you girls are like into it, and you all are playing these instruments. But we didn't set out to be female. It just happened that we were. I see everybody as a person,
right?
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I don't listen to like I don't have like female idols. Like I don't go out like, oh, there's a girl with a band, I'm gonna go check them out. Like I don't, So it was just the fact of who was willing to do it. And now we have a male drummer.
Right. Yes, of course. Malika, we want to know about the new castrator.
Yeah, we're recording right now in the studio. Yeah, and this was a conscious decision to work with other women, because I felt like I enjoyed working with women, and I also had my bands with all men, so it just was like kind of like a breath of fresh air, and we could share our passions together. We could vent about some of the dudes, some of our bandmates, and some of the guys in the scene. It just felt like hanging out with friends, and like a big slumber party when we're touring. So it is cool, and women smell nicer than dudes in the band. I have to say, it's like night and day. Like, this is cool. There's no farting and.
How are you finding motherhood with being in a band, owning a bar, running a label?
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, it's different. Like, I know, Sharon, you're a parent, right? And Corinne, are you a parent or not?
My son's like 20, like 26 or something like that. So it's like,
oh wow, okay,
it still counts.
You don't seem old enough to have a 26-year-old.
I have a 23-year-old, also a guitar player.
Cool. You don't look
Yeah.
old enough also, like, wow, to have a grown-up kid. So yeah, I guess when they're grown up, it's no different. But yeah, my daughter, she's 1 year old. So yeah, it's a lot of work and time. And
Ooh.
Wow.
I wouldn't really be able to tour right now, but that's not really a problem since nobody's touring right now. So
No.
It's like perfect timing.
We got it. We got a.
We have a guest.
Yeah, we got a guest. You gotta like
Oh,
come
where am I
out.
going?
Hi.
That's Dawn from Nunslaughter.
Awesome.
Oh, very cool.
She's in town, so.
Guest
Yeah, right.
appearance.
So I guess
You know.
you're not really touring. Nobody's really touring right now. I know we had
Yeah.
to also cancel shows. So
Mhm.
what do you guys predict? When do you think live shows will be fully up and running for you all?
That's really hard to say. I really don't know. Really
So
don't know.
maybe I picked the best time to have a baby, actually, because it
Yeah,
hasn't really
definitely.
affected anything.
You really did.
Well, are things a little better in Europe than they are over here?
No, it's actually
Wow.
even more strict here. We're on lockdown still. Like all the stores are closed except for essentials like grocery stores.
Yeah.
They just took away the curfew, but there was a curfew not to be outside
We
after
still have
9
the
p.m.
curfew. Yeah.
You still have it as well? Yeah, it's sort of interesting. It seems like everybody was so reluctant to just lock it down at first, and so it just keeps, returning, and it just must be incredibly frustrating, especially if you had touring schedules, right?
Seinfeld.
I think I've become agoraphobic, actually. I don't know. I went from being locked down to being pretty much shut down for a year, and now I think go out. I think it's just turned into agoraphobia or something.
No, I think that is happening for a lot of people.
Yeah, no joke.
That
I was like
I
this
like it.
before
I like
COVID.
it.
Yeah, I like it too.
It's like my natural habitat. I'm
God,
perfectly fine. Yeah.
It's always been like a chore since I hit my 30s to go to a show. Even if I love the band, I mean, I could love the band, but the idea of having to go to work the next day and fuck that.
Yeah, when they put more than 3 bands on a show is
no.
Right? Yeah, festivals are hard when you're a little bit older, like some of us are.
There's actually a skit on Portlandia where Carrie and whatever his name is, they want to go to a festival. But
Yeah, they have to put on like these devices or something.
They really start thinking about it, and then they realize that they're in their 40s, and they just don't want to go to a festival.
Yeah, that's a great episode.
Well, my
Yeah.
husband and I are like, oh, that's us. Every time we see like a festival, we're like, yeah, and then we're like, nah.
Yeah, as wonderful as porta potties are, it's like you can probably live without them when you get a little bit older.
Sharon, what was your last show?
It was I think it was Ross from Immolation's birthday party show up in Rochester. I'm pretty sure that was our last show.
How about you, Malika?
I'm not sure, but it might have been Brutal Assault Festival in Czech Republic. But, I was pregnant. I went. That was before the whole coronavirus thing. And yeah, I haven't been to any shows since I had the baby and then coronavirus, so there's no shows.
Right.
But yeah, the Brutal Assault is a huge festival in Czech Republic, and yeah, a lot of good bands.
Do you think you'll travel with the baby?
Yeah, I'm planning to go back to the States to visit family, in the summer.
All right.
Yeah. Even if there still will be travel restrictions, as a citizen, I can go back and forth.
Of course.
How about you,
Corinne? What was your last show?
I think December 2019 on Eindhoven Metal Meeting. Also big festival over here. That was the last one, yeah.
That's the same. Yeah, December 2019 was my last. Yeah.
How do you all like playing festivals as compared to just regular concerts?
Who's going to start?
Sharon?
Oh, I prefer that. I mean, I get really nervous before any show, but I like, because I don't want to tour at all. I don't have the desire for that. So a festival is like everybody else coming to the one show, and it just makes sense. To be at a show where you're rested and you're not just like traveling and so I like festivals. So
Corinne?
Yeah, I like festivals too, but the problem with big festivals is that a lot of bands go in one backstage room. So I like to prepare myself to sit alone before a show. I like to be alone, and that's not really possible on a festival. And a small club show, it's easier.
Yeah, I find myself going into the van to do like my vocal warm up or get a few minutes alone before the set.
We don't have a van.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Underground, really underground. We have a car.
So the car, you can go sitting there, be alone for a few minutes, right, before the show.
Yeah, I always find a way, but just the club show, it's more. Yeah, it's easier.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I love the festivals, like not only to play and to bigger crowds usually, because you get all the fans for a number of different bands. You get a bigger crowd in general.
Yeah, it's like killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah, and you can expose your band to new fans, and then you get to watch bands that you like too, and maybe bands you haven't seen before if it's a really big festival. So I like the whole experience, but usually like your set is a lot shorter on those big festivals because there's so many bands. You usually get like 20 minutes versus if you played a club show, you might have an hour. So sometimes you feel like, oh, you feel great. I'm just like getting started and then the set's over, on the festival. But you can really get into it in a club show, and it's more intimate with the fans in the club show. You can be right up front with the crowd.
Yeah,
but in the festival shows, the stage is way higher, and unless it's like Obscene Extreme where the crowd comes onto the stage, you don't really interact with the fans on the big festivals as much, I think.
So when are we going to see?
You guys agree?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, so what you think too, Corinne, about the festivals?
Yeah, it's too big, and you have to walk too much, and that's nothing for me.
Have you ever played on the same show? Have the three of you ever played on the same show?
I don't think so. No.
That's a shame.
I've been at a show at, I think, Immolation, and I met Sharon there, and Robin introduced us. So Robin in Darketa is also in Castrator. So I've seen Sharon, and I met Robin at a number of different shows since she does she tours with bands and does merch.
That's the best.
So I had met Robin a bunch of times, yeah. But we never played together.
Yeah, you guys live all over. Like, you don't live near each other, so.
She's got to be going stir crazy.
What's that?
Robin has to be going stir crazy because she's never.
Oh yeah.
Never.
Yeah, she's usually never home, and this has been a long time, like stuck at home. Yeah, I think. For those of us that usually tour, it is like really different experience right now.
Especially like with death metal. I mean, just always on tour. It's like.
Yeah, and becoming a parent now, I'm not used to not traveling all the time. It's been a big adjustment. Yeah.
But worth it, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Maybe post-COVID, we'll see all three of you on one bill. I think that would be really cool.
I think it needs.
I would love that.
That would be awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was really a pleasure to meet all of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Take care. I wore this for you all. There you go.